CentralValleyTalk.com.
And we're back.
Yellow.
Yes. And we got our friend Max the Crystal Skull here in the back. And
Hi, Max.
Isn't it great?
There.
I know, it's
There
kind of
we
scary,
go.
huh? And that's Max the Crystal Skull.
Isn't he beautiful?
Right there. Kind of cool. Right. He weighs about 19 pounds. He is a very famous skull that is owned by Joanne Parks in Houston, Texas. And I met Joanne about, I don't think it was about 9 years ago or so, in Sedona, Arizona. One of my friends had an extra ticket to go see Max the Crystal Skull to do a private sitting. I had no idea what that was about, and it kind of sounded a little scary to me, and I just said, oh, well, it was free, so I might as well go. And so
I know, I remember when you told me, it's like, I'm going to sit with the crystal skull. It's like, right.
Yeah, so
okay, well, you go, honey.
You know, it's, yeah, I didn't even know anything about the legend or anything, so I went to sit with Max the Crystal Skull, and it was kind of an experience because I actually felt some vibration in my body and actually got some, as crazy it sounds, some telepathic information from Max. But just to go back of how Max came about, at least from Joanne's point of view, is the fact that Max was actually discovered in a Guatemalan tomb in 1924 by a tribe. And from that, Norbu Chen, who is a Tibetan monk, he was a Tibetan monk, that tribe actually gave Norbu this crystal skull. And from that, he brought it to the United States, to Texas, and actually had a healing clinic there in Texas. Well, Joanne Parks at the time had a young teenage daughter who was very ill with cancer, and the doctor said she only had a few months to live, and so she heard about the monks and the crystal skull, and she decided to take her daughter there to the clinic. And what she found by taking her daughter to the clinic, it really extended her daughter's life by another 3 years. She was really amazed by this and kind of moved that she ended up working for the monks there at the clinic for about another 7 years. And from that, she gained a lot of experience and knowledge of watching how the monks did their prayer and their healing work. And then one day when Norbu Chen was on his deathbed, he actually gave Joanne Parks this crystal skull. And he said, someday you'll know what to do with it. And so she took the skull and put it in a hat box and put it in her closet for many years. And she's like this little lady from Texas, has this wonderful little southern accent, and she was rather scared of it. And she just said, you know, for years she would have these dreams where the crystal skull would come in her dreams and talk to her and say things to her, and she just didn't want to have anything to do with that. And one day when she was walking by the skull in the closet, she actually heard a voice talking to her in her head, and it was the crystal skull, and she just got so frightened. She said, you know, skull, I don't want you talking to me anymore. She actually pushed that skull further back in her closet, and when she did that, she actually heard the skull say, my name isn't Skull, my name is Max. And that's how Max got his name. From that, she had more dreams where Max actually came in and said, you need to find the man. And the man was this wonderful crystal explorer that knew about the crystal skulls, known as Nick Nocerino. He was a foremost expert on the crystal skulls, and he owns a wonderful skull up in the Bay Area. He's no longer alive right now, but the skull is called Shannara. And he is a wonderful, wonderful skull. So one day she saw on the TV a TV show that was talking about the crystal skulls, and she said, heck, I got one of those in my closet. So she called up the TV station, told the TV station, hey, I got this crystal skull going on at my house, and they came to her house, and at first they didn't believe her, she said, and when they came and saw it, they said, oh my goodness, you really need to get in contact with this man that we know about the crystal skulls. And so she called up Nick Nocerino, and that was the man that Max said he wanted her to find. And he knew about the skulls. In fact, he was looking for this particular skull, Max, because if you look at him carefully, he has almost like a little beret on him. I don't know if you can see it in this
picture. It's more towards the back of his...
In the back of him, and the reason is...
a white cap.
Yes, it looks like a little beret, French beret. But what that is the matrix of the crystal of Max. In fact, he was actually grown from the bottom up, and what they call, he's been analyzed by Hewlett-Packard and also the British Museum, and he has actually grown this junk crystal from the bottom up, and most jewelers that have also analyzed him said there's no way that he could have been carved because there are no tool marks on him, and if they did carve him, he would shatter into a million pieces because he is grown from junk crystal. No jeweler would want to carve him. So he's an actual mystery. And from the British Museum, when they analyzed him, they actually came out and said, no comment. They said no comment to Max the Crystal Skull, and they also said no comment to Shannara, who's owned by Nick Nocerino, whose daughter and wife actually tour with him and take him out now. So that was quite interesting. They also found the crystal skull that is in London was actually not really authentic. They didn't think he was as ancient as they stated. So that was another thing they had no comment about, which I thought was very interesting. And so when Joanne found out about this, she started to take Max to private homes for sittings and also lectures. And she's been doing it for, I don't know, 25, 30 years or so. Now, I can't remember the exact date, so don't quote me on that. But when I met her 8 or 9 years ago, he wasn't as famous as he is now. I mean, she actually consulted on the Indiana Jones movie with the crystal skulls. And Max has traveled all around the world. And he will be in Fresno and as a lecturer at the Madeira Religious Science Spiritual Awareness Center in Madeira on D Street. Reverend Steve, who is the Reverend there, and his wife Maureen
are offering their center as and wonderful hosts
are hosting it for us as far as having this wonderful space. I was looking for a space this year, as every year I look for, because last year I only had room for about 50 people, and this year at least we have room for at least 80 to 90 people. You know, people have always asked me, why don't you have the Tower Theater or the Warners or these? You know, it's really expensive. And also a lot of these churches charge anywhere from $500 or more at times just to rent their space. But Reverend Steve and his wife Maureen have graciously had it at a reasonable price, and also it helps their center grow. And in fact, when Max actually hits Fresno, and I think what he's been doing is actually working the energetic grids here on California. He actually works the templates to help this become a more centered and bringing in the galactic energy. And just stepping back, what is the mystery of this crystal skulls that we hear about? There's lots of legends. It's been talked about on the Discovery Channel, the History Channel, and there is a legend where the ancient aliens have actually left these 13 ancient mystery skulls here on planet Earth. Our planet at one time was star-seeded by other extraterrestrial civilization, and this is just information I'm passing to you, and if it resonates, go ahead and take it in. If it doesn't, then toss it out the window. Or you may just want to put it on the shelf to kind of let it, as a file, download a little bit later. But the legend was that these were major computers here on planet Earth to actually keep all the history that has been here, just like the Alexandra Library. Anyone that sits with these crystal skulls and in the ancient mystery schools with these crystal skulls actually get downloaded with information about yourself. Max is a general crystal computer that actually reflects who you are. So when my patients have sat with him in the past, they have actually had spiritual awakenings. Some have had some major healings with their health. Other people have actually had their psychic centers get back online, getting connected to their guides and angels, or had some past life regression experience sitting with Max. They have actually caught orbs in the room, and there's one wonderful picture that was taken in Florida where one man was actually sitting with Max, and above him on a photograph you can actually see the outline of a spine. And I don't know if we have that picture there. I think I sent a picture with a Max the Crystal Skull with a spine.
Oh, okay, the little spiny
and
thing.
it's
that
kind
one.
of what we call ectoplasm.
Yeah, there we go.
And you can actually see the spine coming up from his head, and the skull, the cranium. And when you actually magnify that picture, you can actually see the intervertebral discs, which are the padding in between the spine. And so that isn't a phenomena in itself that Max has actually come across in some of these wonderful pictures and experiences that some of my patients, that my patient didn't take that picture, it was taken in Florida, but have also caught when they sat with him. They've actually, some people that sat with him also don't get nothing. Because sometimes what I've gotten from the information my guides have said is that sometimes you may not have sitting with Max and he doesn't know you. And so sometimes he's getting information from you, so the second time you sit with him, you may get a little bit more information of who you are and where your journey is, and maybe get a little bit more clarity. But also what my guys say about these 12 crystal skulls, through the legend, just to finish it off, is that someday, when humanity is ready, all these crystal skulls will come together in a circle, will activate planet Earth, and actually catapult it in for its new spirituality of who we are, that no longer will we be caught up on this matrix. We can step forward, get out of the box, step free to the true spiritual divine beings we are, with no longer feeling burden, guilt, anxiety, or fear, because those are lower vibrations. We are actually raising our DNA and our vibrations to actually be in hope, following our dreams, clarity, creativity, passion, desires, and through that we help inspire others once we step forward and out of the box. And I think that's kind of what Max does when people kind of sit with him. And so we're very fortunate that he's coming to Madeira on February 4th at 7:30 at the Madeira Religious Science Center with Reverend Steve and Maureen, and I will be there hosting Joanne, and Joanne will be doing a 2-hour lecture. And some of you may be fortunate enough, if there is enough time, she sometimes lets you go up and touch him for a few seconds. It's one of the few skulls in the world that is out into the public, because most are behind museums or privately owned where they don't really let you touch him. So we'll talk a little bit more about Max when we come back after we go to a commercial.